Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Salon tonight. This is our weekly program every Thursday evening where I interview innovative thinkers and creative firebrands. We're living through a critical time in American history, the COVID-19 pandemic, and a vital social justice movement led by Black Lives Matter. What a thrilling day yesterday. And I can't wait for you to meet my guests. We are all wearing pearls, including Renee, who's our head of our communications department. You won't see her, but she's off stage wearing them too, to honor yesterday and Kamala Harris becoming our new vice president. What thrilling day, but we will talk about it in a minute. Our guests are a variety of artists and leaders discussing new ideas, how they're coping with the coronavirus and making positive social change, as well as showing us glimmers of hope for the future. So tonight, my guests are Denise Hart, who is from Howard University. She's a professor, she's a playwright, she's a director, and she's a dramaturg. And Jan Adams, who is the president and the CEO of JMA Solutions, who is major in this community in terms of volunteering and supporting so many organizations. Denise Hart is first. She's a playwright, a director, she's a dramaturg, she's a tenured professor at Howard University advising playwriting, TV, and film students. She was named the 2018 Outstanding Associate Professor in the Division of Fine Arts and also named the 2019 Visiting Professor at the St. Mary's College in the Department of Theater, Film, and Media Studies. She also taught at American University and Duke Ellington School for the Arts. And in just a moment, we will definitely see Denise Hart coming up. And there she is. There she is. Hello there. And you look beautiful. I love
Oh,
your.
thank you.
And
Gotta
go
gotta
ahead.
have on these pearls. It's the day after the historic inauguration.
It's the day after. And what's the t-shirt that you have on, Denise?
It says "Ladies of Howard University," which is a group that I belong to on Facebook. Over 10,000 women.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So yesterday was so incredible for Howard University. First with Kamala, then seeing the drummers, then talk about it. Talk about from your perspective, having such a deep relationship there.
Sure, absolutely. Couldn't be prouder. I think that's a common phrase. We've been saying on social media, y'all give us our leash this week. You're going to see a lot of Howard puffed out chest, through the week. But I am an alum. I attended Howard University, graduated out of the theater department. And I have a long legacy in my family as well. My third cousin graduated from Howard in 1915. My other cousin was married to the first dean of Rankin Chapel, lived on campus. My sister went to Howard. I went to Howard. My son went to Howard. So we, as they say, bleed blue. You know, that's a saying, when you're just all about that Howard and just HBCUs in general. Unfortunately, there have been some thinking that HBCU doesn't prepare you for the real world. And so, people are saying, how about you all take that lie back? Right? We've always known that it does prepare you for the real world. But certainly when something like this happens, this historic, this life changing in terms of the narrative, in terms of how people view and see opportunity, um, it changes the narrative. So I am enormously proud.
Beautiful. I'd love for you to go back to yesterday, the inauguration, or the night before, and just pull a couple of images out for us. I think we all want to relive the moments. I personally am still like vibrating in the very, very best way.
Me too. Me too. I don't have any tissue up here with me, so it just gets me emotional. Just reflecting back on the beauty of the ritual. Quite honestly, I'm a theater person, and so ritual is very important, and the honoring of that. But a few that come to mind for me were seeing the past presidents. You could feel their camaraderie. you could feel their gladness and their even in this sort of socially distanced situation, they were truly thrilled and happy to be commemorating this moment with their new colleague in the presidency, Joseph Biden. I could feel that resonating off the screen as well. The young poet, Amanda Gorman. I mean, she gave me chills. I want to go back and reread 22-year-old brilliance. I mean, we know brilliance comes in all packages, but I don't know if at 22 I could have, slayed it like that. But truly, she's in her calling, or as we say, in her ministry. That's her ministry. And another one was that beautiful, warm, sincere hug that the Biden shared on the steps as they began. This is the beginning of the journey for them on a personal level. And you could just feel the warmth and the care that they have for each other and that they cherish each other. It was really, truly like a healing moment for me to see that shared in front of me and the rest of the world publicly, and that gladness. It just did something to my soul.
It did for me too. I was so moved by Officer Goodman, who is the officer who really saved the Senate. And there he was, and he was guarding Kamala Harris. And I thought the level of service that this man did for our whole country is extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
Truly, truly,
And
Molly.
when Lady Gaga was singing, and the point where she turned and she said, and the flag was still there, I just started to weep. I couldn't stop myself.
Oh
I
yeah.
loved seeing Kamala Harris take the oath of office, the way she stood, and
Mm-hmm.
she
Ramrod
took
straight.
she took it all in with those sparkling eyes. And I love that they went back to the White House and they got to work. They just kept
Right,
working.
right.
Most people would say, okay, I'm going to take a few days off now. I mean, after the inauguration.
Mm-mm.
And they are showing that their administration is in action.
Right, they're about the work. Yeah, and I also had shared that I love that there were the press briefing, and it was, I don't dare I say, normal. You know, it was just a beautiful to feel that, okay, we're getting down to business. We're really putting that effort and conscientiousness behind our actions, and it is a unified, dare I use this word that Biden has been using, unified. It's inclusive. It's about all of us. It's not self-serving.
Yeah, I have a feeling that as a team, not only they're going to be phenomenal, but I think they're going to be earth shattering because there are
I
so
hope
many
so.
problems for them to solve. And they're on it. You can see that kind of determination.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of humor too, an
Mm-hmm.
ability to laugh at themselves, and they are deliberate, focused, and I just feel like they're going to make it happen. Do you think they'll be able to unify the country or most of the country, Denise?
That's a really big question. Unify means different things, to different people. And so I'm going to reserve to say I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet because over 70 million people voted for the other person. And so what that term means to them, I don't want to try to imply that I understand that they are thinking of the term in the same way that I am. For example, they might think unify around, not just unify, like unify based on, not just unify. Whereas I'm thinking unify, unify this country, that we can stand on its the principles, its historic principles, even the ones that the country hasn't always embraced fully, but that we have the opportunity to continue to move ourselves in that direction, to truthfully and honestly own and embody those principles, not in word but also in deed. So If it's that, then I would say yes, but I'm not sure what unify means to everyone.
Denise. Yeah.
Mhm.
So well stated. Yeah. It's complicated, isn't it?
Right.
Our language is more complex than I think it's ever been. Decker said, what did Amanda Gorman tell us about the relationship of poetry and the theater?
Wow. You know, just from my own perspective. Yeah. Um, I started out actually as a poet. And it's so interesting. Yeah, when I wrote my very first play that got some real attention, won a little award and went down to this competition in Miami. And I taken a poem and just then made it into a piece of theater. And I remember a very successful playwright was in the audience and said, "Oh, that was a poem first." And but it was sort of as if it was a negative, and I said, well, yeah, actually you're right, but I think that the rhythms and the truths of the poetry translate very naturally and very well into this larger, more verbose, more language heavy, and also behavioral examination to theater. And that poetry and theater have a very true relationship in my world, because a poem is a short form opportunity to present a piece of theater. It's a very short form, concise opportunity. And I thought that Amanda was quite theatrical, actually, in the way in which in the best sense, the way she delivered her message. She even used, some body language and hand gestures and things like that. Whereas, for example, Maya Angelou didn't often use any body language or hand gestures. She relied on the manipulation of her instrument, her vocal instrument. Amanda had a great command of her vocal instrument, but she also used her eyes and she used her hands. She used the tilt of her head. And so I loved every bit of it.
I did too. I did too. I've had a number of people ask me today, would she be a good writer for the theater? And I just said, this young woman can do anything she wants to do. I
No
mean,
doubt.
it's really clear. I mean, we have great poets in the theater. August Wilson,
Sure.
great poet
August
in the
Wilson.
theater.
Hmm.
Shakespeare, great poet in the theater. Sarah Rule, great poet in the theater. And poets are drawn to the theater from
Hmm.
different perspectives. Oh my gosh, I'm seeing we're already almost at
Oh
time, and
my, Molly.
I know. Okay, a quick question: what's the first show you remember from Arena Stage?
Oh my goodness. Oh, the show that I was an understudy for, Holiday Heart. I was an understudy for Holiday Heart way back in the day. It was a phenomenal experience. I remember the
Oh my God,
producers run. When the producers came in, I was all nervous because we had to do the run for the producers.
I
It
love
was
that.
amazing.
That was probably 25 or 30 years ago, right?
Easily, because I was my senior year in undergrad.
So I have another question for you because Arena's partnering with you on the Barbara Walton Playwrights Arena this season, which is a
Yes.
year-long program focusing on investigating artistic process and dramaturgical practice facilitated by dramaturg Jocelyn Clark. And this season, the program's focused on 6 advanced students or recent alumni playwrights from Georgetown and Howard universities. This is quite a year to be working with emerging playwrights. What are students writing and thinking about, and how has the pandemic changed their work?
I don't know that the pandemic has necessarily changed their work, but the opportunity to work with Jocelyn is golden. The students it's extremely rigorous. I can say that. That's the feedback that I'm getting, and they are appreciating the opportunity to have someone of his aptitude interrogate their work and also train them how to interrogate not just their work, but their colleagues' work in the most supportive way. It's truly a golden opportunity. It's going to change their work ethic. It's going to change how they collaborate and interact with other theater makers. Um, but I don't think that it's necessarily changed their work. The pandemic, they're not writing, into the experience. They're still discovering their voice and telling the stories that matter, to them based on their specific voice.
Beautiful. Well, I'm so glad, and it's exciting. I can't wait to see, hear, listen to some of the writing that comes out of the
Me
students.
too. Me too.
Thank you, Denise. It's so great to see
Thank
you
you.
online, and can't wait to see you at another time, actually
Absolutely.
in person. And just keep wearing the pearls. We're going to keep the joy going. Thank you, Denise.
Bye.
Jan Adams is the president and CEO of JMA Solutions, a company which assists the Federal Aviation Administration and other clients in the areas of program and project management, air traffic management, engineering services, cybersecurity, and more. Over 40% of her management team are prior military. Jan held the rank of Chief Master Sergeant before retiring from the United States Air Force after 24 years of outstanding service. She's really active in the community, serving on numerous boards, including the NFL Buffalo Bills, cornerback Josh Norman's Stars 24 charity organization, the Mamie Mallory Education and Scholarship Foundation, the African American Civil War Memorial Foundation, which is a corporate sponsor of DC Adopt a School program. In February, she was reappointed by Mayor Bowser to serve as a trustee on the District of Columbia's Retirement Board. And Arena is also honored to have Jan as a member of our Board of Trustees. And Jan's going to come on in just a second. And the very first, there she is. Hi, Jan. Jan has her pearls on too. Oh, Jan, you're going to need to open your mic.
You told me this before. Thank you, Molly. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you. Talk to us about what were your favorite few images from the inauguration, if you can choose a few from the last couple days.
Oh, there were so many, Molly, so many. I loved it when the Bidens walked to the White House, and when the Vice President, Madam Vice President, walked to the old Executive Office building to her. One thing I also noticed was that the license plate, the 46 license plate, had taxation without representation on it. So that might tell us something. Of course, Amanda Gorman was truly amazing. And her story about, or her poem about unity and togetherness was just so amazing. It was just Lady Gaga. I could go on and on and on. The fashions, of course. It was just a wonderful day, a wonderful day. And Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor giving, that was so touching to me. It was very, very touching.
You know, I also was really struck by how the artists are back. Yeah. So many artists were on stage, so many artists performing. And because it was all live, my heart was just in my chest, because this is what we've been missing the last 9 months.
Yes.
And it felt live.
Yes.
And there was an intensity about each one of the performers that was pretty thrilling. So, okay, I'm really curious, Jan, because you've had a long history with Arena. What was your first show?
So my very first show was in 1990, Molly. I was stationed at the Pentagon, and I lived on Bolling Air Force Base. And somehow we received word that Yaphet Kotto was starring in Fences at Arena Stage. And I was just determined to go and see him, because I've been following his career when he was on James Bond movies and different things like that. And it was an outstanding performance. That was my first time there. And little did I know, because I went and did some research on it before we met tonight, that Taz was the director of that performance. It was just amazing. After that, I fell in love with Arena. I left, when I retired. When I retired and came back here, I lived in Southwest. And so one of the first things I wanted to do was to return to Arena, to become a member, do what I needed to do to support you. But one thing I must tell you, And another exciting part about introducing my company to Arena was there were so many people who had never gone to the theater before, who had never seen a play before. And the first time they came and saw what went on, they would send me emails and they would take pictures and send them to me, you know, in front of one of the billboards or something. And they were just so mesmerized by it, and they just became, you know, permanent, I want to go to the theater kind of people. So.
Great. Great, Jan. I'm so curious. I just want to do a slight turn
Yes.
to your work with JMA Solutions. Can you just give us a little taste of some of what you do, because it's so unusual?
Yeah, that's very true. Especially a woman in this field. There are not a whole lot of us who, you know, are that successful in the government contracting space and in the aviation space, particularly. But I have about 170 employees, and they do a myriad of things like providing support to the FAA on they install radar around the perimeter of the United States, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Hawaii. I have a lot of engineers who are working on the airspace system, which is where the airplanes fly, that airspace up there. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay, and so I have financial people providing financial support. We're kind of across the gamut, as you mentioned, cybersecurity folks that are providing that kind of support. So we're, you know, we actually supplement the government workforce. You know, they can't afford to hire everybody that they need to do the work. So they bring on contractors, and we have our own retirement system and things like that, our 401k and benefits, something that the government doesn't have to pay for. They just give us a lump sum of money to come in and do the work. So.
Wonderful. Now, I'm going to ask you kind of a little bit of a tough question.
Okay.
Because of what happened 2 weeks ago with the insurrection
Yes.
at the Capitol building, and the fact that there were former military people there. And how is that for you after your long profession with the military and the kind of work that you do? What kind of insight can you give us about that? Because military takes an oath.
True. True. So, you know, it was very disheartening to me, Molly. It was very sad to see that. But one thing that America and everybody has to understand is our military is made up of people from the neighborhoods, people from the community. So we get all types and kinds of people in the military. They don't all work out. Most of them do, but some of them get sidetracked and focus on the wrong thing. So it's like any other profession, and that's the best way that I can put it. But it was very disheartening.
Yeah, well, that was beautiful, because I think we know, in terms of America's love for the military and for people who protect us in the United States, that's very, very high. Yeah, it was completely disheartening.
Very much.
But Jan, I'm really curious if you would talk to us a little bit about the kind of community service that you do. I mean, you know, people say that sometimes the busiest people do the most work, you know, and are the people that will say yes to you. People who are not as busy won't. And you're always somebody who always says yes. And I see you doing not just a successful company, your work on boards, and you're really active in the community. How do you make that happen? And what are some of the programs that are important to you?
Well, Molly, you know, I tell people that I get up in the morning and stand in the mirror and practice saying no. Practice saying thank you, but no thank you. because my children would tell you I'll give away the farm, you know, as long as they have what they need and I have what they need. Everybody else can have whatever's left. But I think, you know, I always believed, I think as a young child, I always believed that I wanted to help people. When I was in elementary school, I used to help the speech therapist work with the kids who had speech defects. I just always wanted to help. And I guess it just continued when I got in business because I tell people when I give speeches or whatever that, you know, even if it's the smallest thing, you have to give back something, regardless of how little or how much you make, you have to do something to help someone else. So I think what's most important to me in giving back, of course, the children. The children are our future, as we say. So that's why we're part of the Adopt a School program. So the principals here in Southwest has my company on speed dial, and they know that if there's something that they need for those children or the teachers, because we try to make sure we take care of the teachers as well. They know they can call and depend on us. But I can't help it, Molly. It's part of my DNA. It just really is. You know, sometimes I wish I could, but then again, I'm happy that I'm able to do and help others.
Well, isn't it true that people don't recognize that the more you give, the more comes back
That's very true.
in a myriad of different ways? J. Lee Mead, she and her husband named the Mead Center for American Theater.
Mm.
And that's what she talked about all the time. She said, I want to be like Dolly. I want to take the manure and spread it around so that it ends up really growing all these different programs. I want to, she was going to, that's the way they wanted to use their money. They wanted to give while they lived. And that's what they did. And I feel like Biden and Harris are asking us all to do the same thing.
Yes.
What they're saying is a life of service, the kind of service that they have as government people, as anybody can be in their own community. A life of service is a life of joy.
I believe that. Someone told me once that if you walk around with your hands closed, you will never be able to get your blessings. So that I'm a person who walks around with my hands open all the time. And and what you say is absolutely true. It seems that the more that I give, the more that I get. And I don't do it for that reason, of course. But another thing too, Molly, is, I think she was a 3-star admiral in the Coast Guard, said to me once, you really need to make sure your story gets out, because there are, people who need to hear it. And this was mainly because of what I do in business. Some young girls could look up to that and say, oh, she can do this, I can do that as well. But I think another reason that I like for my philanthropy efforts to be known is because I want other business owners who walk around with their hands closed all the time to see what I'm doing and feel maybe a little bit guilty and may want to do a little bit more. So,
Indeed, indeed. Well, the numbers of lives that you just keep touching, it is, it's honorable. It's honorable. And we're in a moment where Biden and Harris have asked us to unify and to find a way to reach out to our neighbors. And as you said, it can be really small gestures. It doesn't have to be huge gestures. But if we support each other, we can take America to a whole other level.
Very true.
I just kind of have a feeling that they are going to be extraordinary. They already are extraordinary, but they're meeting the moment. The time created the moment for them, and they're meeting it.
I agree, Molly. And I feel as though I left one world the day before yesterday, and I'm in a whole new world. It just feels like a weight has been lifted. I can turn on the TV and listen to the news and not hear every day something new and negative, but something positive. And I look forward to that. I really do.
Well, we're in a new day. We are in a new day, Jan, and I see that our time is over. But I've so loved talking to you, and thank you so much for coming on the salon.
Molly, thank you so much for having me. I truly enjoyed it and I love what you do. You're amazing. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Next week will be our 40th episode, if you can believe it. My guest next week will be Corbin Bleu, who's the actor of Anything Goes, wonderful superstar. Ray Seahorn, who you will know mostly from television, from Better Call Saul, but she also was an actor for me in the early years when I was at Arena for All My Sons, Hot and Throbbing by Paula Vogel, and How I Learned to Drive by Paula Vogel. So please come and join us. I think it's really going to be a fun salon.